Are you an
Good
empath?
morning. Good morning.
Well, this might show up in the
Hello.
evening. Who knows?
Oh, right. Good evening or good morning. Good evening. What is that line? Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of the Psychic and The Skeptic. Today we're going to talk about empaths. And I can say that all of you are empaths on some level. You just don't know it yet. So empaths have really just, what's the best definition, Mina, that you could come up with about empaths?
Wow. I think it's it's a sense, like we have the senses of sight, smell, like touch. So it's a sight of feeling, I guess, like maybe not like I love or I hate, but when you go into a room or when you go into an area or you're near someone or you talk to someone on the phone or they send you a message and you feel their emotion. It's a sense of emotion.
Yeah, I
Of
think
something that's not yours.
absolutely. And it's like, excuse me, it's allergy season here. The winds go crazy here in the morning. So I'm just like,
I didn't sleep because of my dogs, so it's fine.
yeah, Amina has 11 dogs down in
I have
Mexico,
11 dogs.
and they're all well trained.
But I have a puppy.
But there's a puppy, and the puppy is keeping her awake. So
Oh, the puppy's brutal.
it's just like, oh, I remember having a puppy. It's like having a little tiny. It's like having a.
Yeah.
I don't want to say baby because some parents will
It's
get
different.
upset and be like, "It's not the same." I'm like, okay, it's not the same, but it's definitely very taxing. They're so cute though, but that's how they get away with it. They're so
I
damn
love the
cute.
puppy breath. Oh my God.
And I love
But in the
smelling.
middle of the night, I really like to sleep. Or at least my body likes to sleep. And to wake up to go potty. I mean, I'm glad she's potty training or she's trying to,
Yeah,
So it's really exciting.
it's just
Okay.
brutal.
We're not
Sorry.
talking about puppies though. Empaths.
Empath. So it's something that people ask me, like, what's an empath? And I'm like, you basically can feel energies around you. I guess not necessarily on a psychic level, but you can, you start to feel the energy in the world and you don't know how to process it, especially if you're, a young empath or somebody who's just unlocked this gift where you can feel things or you feel heavy and you don't know why. And it's like, it's not you, but maybe the person next to you is having a hard time. It's just like, it's that sort of thing with empaths. So an empath, when I really found out I was an empath, it was something that I had to laugh because what happened was that after we're laughing about this because the story is pretty funny. I wish I still had the text message, but so I discovered I was an empath after I had a spiritual awakening, and I feel like someday I'll really go into detail, but the spiritual awakening was essentially having a really bad breakup, heart completely shattered, life just felt like it was going nowhere, and then trying to put the pieces back together. But what's interesting and what people don't tell you is when you are putting the pieces back together, you unlock gifts that you maybe didn't know you had or that you had all along and you just stuffed. So I just had this moment where I was sitting at a friend's house. I was house sitting, and I was just sitting there going, I feel so heavy. I feel so awful. What the heck is going on? I can't get out of this, like, just kind of sad feeling. And I realized it was because my ex was in town at her sister's wedding. And I saw the pictures and I was like, oh,
And you
that.
texted me.
I was like, does that correlate? I thought, I was like, well, I didn't even know when she's getting married. I mean, I wasn't paying any attention to that sort of stuff. I was trying to move on with my life, but I was just like, oh gosh. Oh, and I remember I messaged you and I said, is it possible if somebody comes into town that you're connected to feel them, to feel their energy more, even if you didn't even know they were there? And you messaged me and you said, Sam, I think you're an empath. or you unlocked this empath ability. And I was like, what's that? Well, my first thought was, what was that? So the first thing I did was Google it, thinking it was like some sort of cool gift. And I was like, I don't want this.
It's like, how do you give it back or something like that?
How do I get rid of it? I thought it was how do I get rid of it? It was like it was some sort of disease. I'm all for being proactive and, trying to move on and move up, find the right way to go about doing things. And I realized that being an empath is actually not a death sentence, but I just felt like, because the description I read, it was like, they're highly sensitive people who have a hard time going outside, and they're introverted, and it's basically
going outside.
Like they're afraid of the world. They're highly sensitive people, and all I thought about were like the people that I would meet at meditation class. Mm-hmm. I started doing meditation classes, and there were people when I would show up. They were just. It was like these little sheep who were just afraid of everything. They were afraid of the world. They were afraid of people. They're like, I don't know what's going on. I just feel everything. And I just they seem really neurotic and like totally out of it. And you're just going, dude, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I remember thinking like, that's not me.
But it is, in a sense.
But at the same time.
But you're an extrovert.
In retrospect, though, like I look at these people that I had met, and my heart really goes out to them. So it's like, but at the time, I was like, I'm not scared of the world. I like people. This is so weird. Like, why?
Because you're an extrovert,
right?
Totally different.
And the more I read about it, it was like, and that was the thing, is that everybody keeps saying, well, empaths are introverts. I'm like, no, I don't think that's the case. I think that extroverts really can go undiagnosed as empaths, because we like people, we like to be around people, we get our energy from people. But at the same time, there's a double-edged sword, because you're like, I don't actually, if you don't like the person or the person is draining your energy, it's a double-edged sword. So you almost feel like you're kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when you're going through that learning process of like empath and I'm extroverted, because you're like, I love people. People give me energy, except you. You're like, I can't deal with this. And it's like, you don't know why, but there's something in your stomach that says, not that guy, just not that guy, or that person, or that woman. It's like, it's just very odd. But yeah,
I think not an extrovert.
Mina is not an extrovert.
Very much an introvert, even though I'm doing these things, and even though I can talk in front of hundreds of people, totally still an introvert, completely. When I turn on like the teaching mode, I'm okay. But once the teaching mode goes off, where's my cave?
Yeah.
For me, when I was a kid, I always felt a little bit of the empath stuff, but I don't think I completely, I don't know, had it open. I guess maybe I shoved it in a box also, just to be able to associate with people. And it wasn't till, and I think I mentioned this on another talk, that, I did a healing for, we'll go into it, right? So my mom's boyfriend at the time, he had drowned, and his body was left brain dead. So we went to visit him. Obviously, it was a non-planned, something horrible is happening to them. And I was so in shock that I saw him, and all I wanted to do was help. And at the time I had done like little healings. I mean, I'd helped my grandmother many times, but that was family. And so like I had kind of gotten used to that. And I basically took his soul and I took it to heaven, Shinland, whatever you want to call it, a place of peace, of light, where other souls are. I'll keep that simple. And because that'll be another talk. And in doing that, it was such a big, because I did it to help his soul find peace, and so that he knew the road to the light, right? And in doing that, it was such a big healing that most of the time these kind of healings, you should train for. Most people can't do them. So the universe kind of like slapped me in the face. By the time I made it home, which was about 9 hours of a drive back, all my empath gifts just opened. The next morning I woke up and I started like having to vomit like 20 times every morning before I could even get up. Like because I because remember, I feel also, I've got the clairvoyant, I've got I can feel people like from different places. So mine was exponential. Blocks of houses of people, I would feel all of them. And I couldn't handle it. I couldn't even function. And at that moment, I was actually working for sales in Aflac. And I remember thinking, and I was amazing at it. I thought I was helping people. So I would just, whenever I think I'm helping people and believe with all my heart I am, I'm great at it. But if I don't, not good. So I thought I was helping people. I would try to do my work, but I couldn't even get out of the house barely. And I went and I talked to my manager and I was like, look, so this is happening. And he was like, well, maybe this job's not for you. And I was like, dude, it's not, you don't understand what's going on with me. So I quit my job, and for a while I went to therapy and I tried to work on stuff, emotional stuff, because I didn't understand it. I had always kept all my gifts so much in the dark that I couldn't begin to express to a therapist what was happening with me empathically. So we worked on I don't want to use the word normal, but the regular stuff, from daddy issues to everything else, right? Boyfriend stuff, self-care things. And it helped immensely, so much so I was able to go get another job, but I realized I couldn't do face-to-face contact. So I did phone sales for a while. And again, I thought I was in a field where I was helping people. And later on, so many months later, I realized I was not in that field because I went behind the scenes and it just killed me. So I took 2 years off and I basically meditated, dream walked for 2 years and just tried to find answers. And in that realized, this is part of who I am now. And through time, it took a lot of, from meditation to training, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, you name it, Sundo. And it enabled me to be able to be around people, to feel their energy. And generally, it doesn't stick. Most of the time, it doesn't stick. It'll last like a couple hours. And then after those couple hours, at the most, it goes away. But I've learned to be able to, I have this way to flush it out. So when I treat a secret, right? I treat a patient, and if I feel too much of their energy afterwards, I actually have to go to the bathroom afterwards. Just number one. But I go, and it's like kind of like my body, I allow my body to just like flush, or I wash, because I'm constantly washing my hands anyways. So also I wash my hands and I like let that be the like, okay, I've cleansed off their energy. But yeah.
Well, and it's funny because there was because I think I've mentioned this to you before. So there's actually a psychologist therapist. Her name is Judith Orloff, and she actually writes books for empaths about how to psychologically, go through life without feeling like you're being emotionally drained every 5 every second of the day. And I found her really helpful. But there's something that a lot of people do when you first find out you're an empath. You feel like you're exhausted all the time, and you feel like you're at this almost I don't want to say victim mode, but you kind of feel like you're the so I think Matt Kahn said this, or he was like, it's kind of like feeling like the emotional garbage man for the rest of the planet. And it kind of sucks sometimes. So I liked that analogy, and it's like, oh God, it's just one of those things you got, and you got to keep dealing with it. But so one of the discussions was always like, what works for you to keep your own energy intact and know what is mine and what is yours, or somebody else's. And something that I've always heard was, oh, you have to walk around with this white bubble of light. You have to meditate before you go into anything. And I was like, I can't do that. That's exhausting. It never failed, because it was like I would be at work. So I worked in corporate America for a long time. And I'd sit in my car and I'd like envision a white bubble. And I'm like, I got a white bubble. It's a bubble of light, and nobody can touch me or upset me. The minute I walk in, it was like, did you know so-and-so is doing blah, 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 and I can't believe this, and this project's going to be blah. And it was just like, oh my God, I can't. It was like, where did my bubble burst? I was like, there's no bubble here. That bubble sailed the minute. And I was just like, and it may work for an introvert, but for an extrovert, it didn't work for me. But for me, what really worked was when finally I realized that, when your heart shatters wide open, you have all these pieces that you have to pick up. And there are things about you just have to examine: the good, the bad, the ugly. And usually, if you can look within yourself and go, okay, well, this is not something I particularly care for by myself, but it's something within me, and I'm willing to look at it. And you start to look at these little pieces as you put your heart back together. For me, that felt like I just created a new superhero power, because you can talk to somebody and somebody comes at you with all of this crap or gossip or something that just makes you feel bad. And you can just go, okay, well, this makes me feel bad. But at the same time, I know myself so well that I know it's not me. I know it's them. I know it's their pain. I know it's their insecurity, the stuff that they need to deal with. And for some reason, that started to become my shield, instead of envisioning myself having this white bubble that I needed protection from. And a lot of that happened by going to therapy, because I think Mina and I are both on the same page. Like, when it comes to feeling like this is a lot, just get thee to a therapist. Read books,
Yeah.
do whatever you can to, try to make yourself
one you connect with.
forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I know of all my gifts, if I was to have children biologically, this would be the gift I wouldn't necessarily want to pass down. I'm like, you can have any of them, have fun with it, but like the empath one, it's like, oof, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, especially my level. It's like so intense in Sam's. It doesn't matter what level, right? We're all in this, and it's how you work on it. It's totally. I had a boyfriend, George. It was, I don't know, over a decade ago, and he used to say to me, because I would get these rushes of holy shit, like anxiety or depression or like massive, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I can't, like, and this was before I invented Beach Be Cool, one of my herbal formulas, and he says to me, 95% of it, Mina, isn't you. Just remember that. And I would be like, and that phrase would repeat in my head for years. And I just like, that's right. It's not me. It's going to show up who it is. And it did. It always did. And so it was wonderful. And that helped me get control of it, just like Sam said. And now I reach a point where I use it as a tool. When I'm with a patient, I know when they have whatever it is going on in their body. I can feel, like, let's say they walk in with sciatica, I feel it in me, and it's not just, I allow it to go all the way inside me at that moment, because I'm helping them. And I'm like, okay, so you have sciatica, it's on your left side, it starts here, am I right? And we get confirmation, and then we go from there. But then after I walk away, it stays there. I don't allow it to continue with me. And it's a practice. It's something that takes a long time to, some people, it takes a long time to get control of, depending on what you're dealing with.
It's almost like feeling like a baby bird that's just trying to learn how to fly again, because when it hits you, it's like, because I used to be like Miss Sarcasm, and nothing bothered me, and I was like, I could laugh anything off. But then after that happened, I felt everything. And I was like, oh, this sucks. And I don't know what's mine, and I don't know what's theirs, because I like people, but except that guy. It's like, that's always been like my favorite. The hardest thing for me is just like, how do you know what's yours and what's theirs? And there's still times where people will say something that I realize gets under my skin because of where I'm at in life. And sometimes you just have to go, I just can't talk to you for a little bit.
Yeah. Like last night, I had a moment where I just felt massive anxiety. And I was like, this isn't me. I don't have this. I know it's not me. And Sam and I were talking on the phone. I was like, I know it's not mine, but here it is. So I'm just going to watch Netflix and just tune it out, and it'll pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Empath.
Yeah. I just, and that was the thing, is that I think a lot of people go, again, you go to a meditation class and somebody's like, I'm an empath. And they sit in the corner and they just want to be sad, and super sensitive, and it's like that you don't know how to help them. Because you're like, I don't know how to help you. But
So like a support, somebody to help, like a support group, so to speak,
yeah,
it's wonderful. It's amazing. Like Sam and I have each other, and I know I have a couple other friends, but with Sam I can just, we respond the fastest to each other, and we're like, hey dude, so this happened, dude, this happened. Like that's our, and we flush, we are
yeah.
each other's support group.
And we definitely have moments where one of us will be like, snap out of it, like
Yeah.
share and
Yep.
moonshine. Just like just get that out of your head, because
Yep.
sometimes it's like it'll hit you and you don't know it's yours, and then by the time you figure out it's not yours, it's already in there. And you're
Yes.
like, I can't seem to drain this. I can't seem to get rid of it. But the more you kind of practice, is this mine? Is this mine, or is this theirs? Is this mine, or is this somebody else's? And I remember during the beginning of COVID, I felt so
many people
sad.
did. Right. Oh, the
And
loneliness, the
so
sadness, anxiety. Oh my goodness. It's so heavy.
yeah, and for me, it was like, because I live alone. I mean, I probably shouldn't say that in the interwebs, but I have really great neighbors. They all know who I am.
I live alone too, but with 11 dogs, it'll totally
as
eat
a
you.
single person living in the time of COVID, and then you get furloughed or laid off, I was just sitting here thinking it was my own stuff I wasn't dealing with, but I was like kind of going, I'm just going to take this time to reinvent myself. I'm going to take this time to figure out what it is I want to do, because Lord knows I have the time. This is a gift. And I just kind of, and I remember one day that I was like, I can't move. Like, I just don't want to do anything. What is going on? And you're like, it's COVID, stupid. There's a pandemic. I was like, why can't I move? I can't seem to get anything done today. And you're just like, because it's COVID and everybody's feeling it right now. And I think that, there was a certain series of events that happened in November when everybody felt the heaviness of the earth just go.
Yeah.
Anybody who's been paying attention, and that's something else that I've noticed being an empath. I started watching, and I'll tell anybody this, there are YouTube videos where they're actually energy experts who go by astrology, and they'll tell you, like, they'll go through the charts and everything and say, it's going to be heavy for the next couple of weeks, and then things are going to go really fast. And it's really interesting and fun to see how much that correlates. It also is another great way to be reminded of it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
For me. And honestly, being an empath is a superpower, because you can read people much faster, much more tolerance for people. You can get to the root of
Definitely.
a cause rather than me.
That's true.
Then that has worked so much with conflict resolution.
I don't know how you ever did so many parties though. I remember before COVID, Sam would go out almost every weekend to some amazing big thing, and I'm just like so exhausted just imagining her. And I'm like, oh, really? I just like, oh, okay, you're gonna go out again. Okay, you got this. Like, but she was like full of it, and it would bring her life. And so the difference between extrovert or introvert, and we can do that on another sequence, but like it was just so. I can't do big parties. I have a time limit. Definitely 2 hours is the max. But like half hour would be awesome. Just show up, show my face. I totally support you. Love you lots. Do I have to eat here? Okay, I'm out of here. Not because I don't love you all.
Is I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds, but just saying that you're a healer, so a lot of the people that you attract are a little damaged, myself included. Like, and that's the thing. It's like it's like, but it's an amazing thing that you do. And I know when I go to parties, I always make sure I know who it is and who it's with, where it's going to be. That's something that I do as an extrovert and empath.
They're fancy parties.
Right. Like, so for instance, like I was helping a friend who does a lot of galas for social responsibility. So she does a lot of, helping people and going and doing fundraisers for, the homeless and that sort of stuff. So it's like, I can go to that. The people there are awesome. I mean, because they're all there to help people. They want to help people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, parties like that are great. But of course, you go to this galas where it's like the rich family that probably has never had a bad day in their life walks in going, "We've donated $3 million for blah, blah, blah. Check out my $4,000 shoes." I mean, those people are kind of hard to be around. But the majority of the time, it's like they're really good people around you. And I always make sure. I have one friend who's she's the party girl. And I love her. And she's just always so fun and bubbly. If you go to a party, it would tell you to do that as well, to just find the one person to kind of energetically latch onto that just doesn't see it.
Yep, that's how I can get out.
Yeah.
And when I'm supposed to, when I was a kid, I used to have this, I hated being what I felt was stood up, even if you showed up late and I had to show up somewhere first. And I think I don't believe I realized that was an empath thing of mine, is because I used that person as a grounding tool to be able to be there. And so I'm okay if I walk into it alone, but I have to acknowledge, okay, I am myself, I am grounding myself. But if I walked in with someone, it was just so much more, I could handle it. Like, I could handle going to something with Sam, like I got Sam, she's my grounding. But, definitely.
Yeah. Like, you'll never catch me going to a Hollywood party. You'll never catch me going to anything in West Hollywood or Hollywood where it's kind of, I don't want to say younger crowd, because that sounds like I'm saying bashing a younger crowd, but it's just more like when you know the type of people that will be there and you can know whether or not you're going to jive with them. That's all that I really need, because there are times where I go, yeah, I can't deal with these people. Or if I do, like, say if it's a work event, what I do is I go, okay, you have one drink, you have 45 minutes, you walk around, you say hi to everybody, then you say you have somewhere else you have to be.
Yeah.
And I usually don't.
I do.
But I sound like a mover and a shaker. Like, yeah, I'm here. It's really great to see everybody. I'm sorry, I really have to go to X, Y, and Z. And I probably added myself to people I used to work with, but whatever. They probably wanted to do the same thing. They just weren't cool, and they weren't.
I left my own wedding, within 45 minutes, so it's just normal. I don't like group things unless I'm teaching. If I'm teaching or I'm leading a meditation or something, it's somehow the healer or teacher mode clicks in, and I'm totally fine. It's a whole nother, literally a serene energy goes through and I'm fine. But if I'm not in that mode,
energy, and I've noticed that I kind of do the same thing whenever I would teach, because I usually teach kids. That when I could control the energy, it was fine.
Right, that's it.
And then when energy.
And when a lot of people come up to me, or if they, I don't like being the center of attention unless, again, I'm trying to heal, or then I'm totally fine with it. It's a switch. But if it's like a regular party and then a whole bunch of people come up to me I'm like, oh. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sitting at a party is always, and if it's not your party.
Even if it is my party. That's why you're going to throw the parties. I'll show up for a little while. I'm taking off.
I had a friend who was like, I don't know how you can just go to a party and not know anybody. I'm like, I give myself a 45-minute time limit as an empath. I walk around, I see if there's anybody remotely interesting. Mm-hmm. Which sounds mean, because there are parties you go to and you're like, how the hell did I end up here? Just going, who are these people? I love the person that's throwing the party, but they're the center of attention right now. At the very least, I need to make myself seen. Give myself a couple minutes to talking points, and then I just go. But I sound very clinical talking about that, but I would always say if you're an extroverted empath and you go to a party, you always make sure you bring your own car. You always have an out.
Oh, I always bring my own car. No. I literally will go into a panic to not bring my own. I'm like, what do you mean I can't? Now there's Uber and all kinds of things, but.
I learned my lesson one time when a friend of mine invited me to his graduation at this thing that he did. And I got there and they tried to sell me into this kind of cult. we will tell that story another time.
Right. Gut before
That
guru comes later.
that was the one where I was like, I
I had
am
one of
never,
those.
ever going anywhere without my own car, or at least a
Yeah.
Lyft. I mean, that was before the time of Lyft. So, but
Right.
Lyft is probably the greatest thing that could ever happen to an empath.
It really is. Okay,
Yeah.
so things to leave you with on being an empath, ways to help yourself. I say meditation. Of course, we go back to eating really slowly. The more we can control our spleen and our stomach, we can control our anxiety, chewing our food well, waiting a minute between each bite. I'm always going to say this, and never getting more than 80% full. Qigong exercises from Qigong, Sundo, which is a Neigong, amazing. You want to find out about it, you go to sundo.org. Master Hyun Moon Kim leads that. He's my master as well. Yoga, Bagua, it's limitless. But the idea is it's more of an internal exercise. And the more our internal chi is stronger, then we're creating that barrier around us that's a healthy barrier. Anything you want to add, Sam?
Yeah, because Mina does the internal work. I do the external work. So what I would say is also really understanding your boundaries, doing enough reassessing where you can stop
Absolutely.
and go, okay, so this scenario, because there's going to be trial and error. You're going to have days where you go, well, I blew that one out of the water. And it's totally okay. You just got to go, okay, so what happened last night that
How can I fix it?
how can I fix it? Maybe it's like, for instance, bringing your car, giving yourself a 45-minute time limit, see whether or not you like it. I mean, you kind
Or
of hear these
saying
things a lot.
no.
Yeah, or
Saying
just saying
no.
no.
So powerful.
And that's the thing is that if you have friends though, because I used to have friends where I would be like, I'd say no, and they'd be like, why do you hate me? And it was just such a manipulation tactic. Like if you tell your friends, no, I'm not feeling it tonight, and they still get upset or they try to push you for it,
They're not your friend.
they're not
They
worth
don't
it.
understand
I
you.
mean, they don't understand you, or they're not at that level of maturity. Because right now, like if Mina says I can't do it, I just go, all right, it is what it is. It's like,
Yep.
man, I was looking forward to it, but I also understand that you have real boundaries and I respect them. And that's really all it comes down to is just understanding your boundaries. It's totally okay if your friend says it gets all upset. Just take it as a sign that they're just not going on the same path as you right now. Doesn't mean that they're not going to be going on the same path as you later on.
That was nicely said.
Yeah. But that's always the way I look at everything is just if there's a disagreement, it doesn't, because I used to be like, that's it, fire, the world's over and our friendship is done. And it's like, you can't look at things like that because you have to go, okay, well, I made this boundary. I know what's going to happen if I don't follow this boundary. And I need to remain intact for myself for, the long run.
Yeah.
Because if you go, I'm going to go to this party and I'm going to drink with my friends, and because I would just sit there going, I'm going to have a couple drinks. I'm going to lose the whole morning on Sunday. I'm not going to be able to work out. I'm not going to do this other stuff. And it's just like, you kind of start to build those boundaries because you're like, I want to feel good in my own skin.
Yeah.
You always want to, the end goal is to always feel good in your own skin.
Self-care.
Yeah, do the self-care. Go have, I'm probably going to have pancakes sometime today. But I'll try to eat it slowly. Still working on that.
Sometimes it's not just about what you eat, but how you eat it. And I know that goes against so many other people's belief systems, but definitely I feel that like once we get control of how fast we eat, then we can control what we're eating better. And we can listen. Anyways, sorry. Again, I'm going to always go back to the food thing. I'm sorry, guys. All right. Enjoy being an
She's
empath.
always going to go back to the food thing. I'm always going to go back to boundaries and the external, like how can you be the empath superhero? I think that's a great.
I love that word. That's totally turning a difficult into a positive. So I really love that. Thanks, Sam.
Well, and it's like being an empath can be a bit it feels like a weaker way of being, and it really isn't. Just got to know your boundaries. Got to know how to eat slower.
Eternal Qigong.
Yeah, but for those folks who I may be reaching that are the scared sheep in your meditation class, I hope that this actually helped you a little bit. That you do have
boundaries. No, I love that. Yeah.
creating
There's so many
boundaries.
ways. And let us know what ways you guys do that works for you.
Yeah, because I think we all can use tricks on this one. All right.
All right. Lots of love, guys.
Bye.